Well, hello again. Following on from our non-expert entry into the world of powered semaphores in review number 11, our thoughts now turn to colour light signals to add variety to the layout, and for those little people that the layout entertains. It's surprising how old colour light signal is, 1906 or thereabouts. In fact, the Southern had a 4-aspect colour lights in 1926. So our layout, which is a sort of London North Western Great Central lash up, if I can call it that, will be graced with at least one 4-aspect colour light signal. That's even though we're basically a steam outfit. We're also going for automatic operation, as I'm too busy controlling trains and routes to do too much manual signalling. I purchased this 4-aspect signal from CR Signals. It arrived quickly in a very neat box and comprises the model itself plus instructions and company paperwork. First impressions, ignoring the fact that this is an electronic item, is actually what a superb model it is. Finished in grey with black light modules. It's obviously ready for painting, and just look at the slim profile. The ladder and safety cage are exquisite bits of modelling and closer to the prototype than one would expect in this gauge. So even if this signal never worked, it would sit happily on an N-gauge layout. The wires, as you can see, have coloured sleeves representing the colour of the lens that they power, with the resistors attached. However, my block signalling unit, which I'll tell you about in a bit, tells me that external resistors are not needed. So the plan is to have a dry run with the external resistors still attached and see what effects this has on the light output. Secondly, I noticed there are actually 2 yellow wires coming from the CR signal to power the amber lights, so some experiment is obviously required to find out which is the primary amber light. And lastly, I assume that this red wire here, the all red, is actually the power cable, so a dry run is required. So that's our CR signal. Now wherever I put it, here we have the infrared control unit from Block Signals. As you can see, in this case it's an ASP1NS light signal controller, non-solder. It seems to be in an airtight pack that possibly is resealable. If it is, then what I shall do is take the label off the top here and stick it somewhere down the bottom, so that we know what's what in the future. Give you some idea again of the scale. There's a 50p piece, and here is the signal. It's actually going to power, so it's a bit bigger than the signal, but all in all not much. It consists of the infrared bit shining upwards from here, obviously the control gubbins, and then we've got what I call the chocker block down here, where we will be attaching the wires from the DC control and also from the the signal itself. Now it says that this thing is going to actually look upwards between the bits of the track. So obviously it's going to be the other way around. Thoughts immediately occur of, well, we're going to drill a hole between our sleepers in the engage track for the sensor to shine through, but then how are we actually going to attach this unit to the baseboard? It might be a push fit in the hole. Certainly the wires to a certain extent will hold it in place, but I'm already thinking that some form of bracket might be needed to araldite to here to hold it up to the bottom of the baseboard. Dry run required again. Let's see how we go on now. Out on the railway. Just to recap, it was a resealable vacuum pack, so we've put the label down the bottom, and we'll obviously use the railway room, and we have the Mark 1 test rig, which consists of plastic vise with the sensor pointing upwards. That's all been wired in to this jockey block down here, and then on the other side we have the connections going up to a colour light signal, which is sitting the other side. So if I now apply 12 volt DC, we have a green light. So let's put some traffic. We have a red light. A single amber, double amber, back to green. Once more. So there's the sensor. Traffic turns the light red. Have to be quite close. Single amber, double amber, green. So I think that proves the theory. One interesting point, of course, is if you're powering from the track and you reverse direction, you get no light at all. As soon as you put the light, the DC back the other way around, you get your signal operating again. It doesn't appear to do it any harm, but I'm no expert, as you know, on this. So I said that's proved the theory of how it works, and the fact that we can wire it up. I'm pretty certain that I actually want to wire it to a constant 12 volt DC rather than taking a feed off the track, but there again, that depends on the equipment that you have available on your particular railway. So with a nice spaghetti lash up, next thing is painting and then installation. Right, so here we have our signal planted and working, unlike Casley Warble. In the scenery, points to note, drill a hole bigger than the circumference of the signal post because of the fine wires. Also, don't glue it down. This one's held in place by double-sided sticky tape. It could also be blue tack if you wanted. Because there will be adjustment, like all good railway things. Our infrared sensor is in this 8mm hole, 8mm 6mm hole that I've drilled in the baseboard here. Points to note here are any bits of gross or anything that fall down that hole will force the IR sensor not to work. Also, if you're drilling an 8mm hole between 9mm track, it's difficult to do without damaging. In fact, in a perfect world, you would drill the hole before you laid the track. But of course we don't always have that opportunity. You may have seen some red flashing lights going on there, and if we now go right, here's the view underneath the baseboard. Excuse my scratchy wiring. The red lights are from the infrared unit, which I don't know if you can see, but it's sandwiched between two bits of plastic that I have screwed to the underside of the baseboard and then held the whole thing in place with a bit of garden twine. Very exact, but it works. One of the problems you have with this infrared board is the fact that you have to secure it in some fashion underneath the baseboard, and you have to be fairly exact because the range of the infrared sensor is not that great. So a bit of trial and error needed, and I'm sure your carpentry skills are much better than mine. Now, moving left, hope you can see. We'll just here are the wires coming down from our signal through a hole in the baseboard, and as you see they are very fine indeed. So fine in fact that I had difficulty attaching them to the chocker block, so in the end what I did was solder dropper wires onto the resistors and then took the dropper wires direct to the infrared unit. You may of course not been able to do that on your railway, but that is a system that works here. And again, I apologise for A, my standard of wiring, and B, the fact that this may not be very straightforward to look at. Now, you would think, one other thing, you would think that these red flashing lights are a bit of a so what, but actually it's very nice to be able to just look underneath, see a red light flashing and know that your infrared unit is working, particularly when you are 9 or 10 foot away from the action, this being at the other end of my particular baseboard. And I do think they flash in a sequence so you could actually tell which signal lens was being operated at the time. But who cares? If it operates, that's good enough. So all in all, you might get the impression that I'm pretty pleased with my signal and its infrared unit. And you'd be right. I think for the money you pay, they're both good value, they're interesting to put together, and at the end of the day you get a very nice working unit. What could we improve on? Well, I think from the signal point of view, not much. It's not bad at all. Nice little website, the system works, and you get a good product at the end of it. I shall buy more. From block circuits point of view, well, a couple of small items. I'd actually pay more if the unit came with a clamp or a pair of clamps that were adjustable. I'd pay £5 more for that, because I've probably spent a day and a half or 2 days trying to attach your circuit board to the underside of my baseboard, and all baseboards will be different, of course. Second thing I would do, your website, your new website is very colourful, very interesting. It's quite difficult actually to buy something through that because you don't make it obvious where the for sale bit is. And the second thing is, I would really like the instructions in downloadable PDF files. Now, it does say in your literature that they are available on the website, but I think the website has had a makeover since then, and obviously that's not now the case. So please, with Mr. Webmaster, reinstall that particular function. This is really penny pinching though, because just to reiterate, both are good products, both products work, and both companies provide very good service for what I consider to be a reasonable cost. Would I buy from them again? Yes.